All right, Coach, you're coming off one of the best campaigns in school history last year. How do you really motivate these kids to work off of what you did last year coming into this season with some of the losses you had on the senior side?
The good thing about last season, and the seasons previous, is it kind of set the tone for what we want to be as a program and set the expectation. Kids know every year is a new year. There's not really, to me, there's not a whole lot of carryover from season to season. It kind of more than anything sets the standard for what the expectation of our program is.
Now, in terms of your quarterback situation, you lose Bryce McLean. Now you have three quarterbacks really battling out right now. How's it looking at this point?
All three of the guys are still competing. We switch them up in the depth chart, and everybody gets equal reps during practice, but don't really make a decision on those guys until we start getting live reps. I like all three of them. We think we can win with all three of them. Just let them battle it out, compete, and see who the best guy is.
And keeping on the offense, let's talk about the offensive outlook, what you expect and who we should be looking at this year.
Expectations, we're optimistic, excited about the guys that we have on that side of the ball. Like we were talking earlier, I'm real excited about our depth at our skill position guys, especially on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball. Up front, we've got four guys that started at different times last year on our offensive line that are projected starters right now, so we do have some experience up there. Kind of the guys to expect stuff from. Obviously our quarterbacks, whoever that would be, is expected to kind of run our offense. Running back wise, Khalib Woodley's a returner, had a ton of carries. Last year, got another senior, Isaiah Williams, who's going to get a ton of carries, and then a senior, Steven Gonzalez, that's going to play a little bit of safety and running back for us. Only returning starter we have at receiver is Sean Brown. He's a senior. I think he had 700 or 800 yards and 9 touchdowns last year, so he was our leading receiver last year that returns. Right now, we're projected to start 2 juniors. Bryce Kennan and Aiden Twombly, and then a sophomore, Ian Hutter, one of our other receivers. And then up front, the 4 guys that played and started for us last year were Anthony Hinton, Zach Yagi, Chase Fedor, and Josiah Snapper. Those are the 4 guys that returned. Started quite a bit on our offensive line last year.
And turning over on the defensive side, Will Smith, you got pretty much quarterbacking, I would say, that defense.
Yeah.
Very impressive kid, top 10, I think, in tackles last year in the county. Talk about Will and that defensive squad.
Well, Will should be one of our leaders on defense and should be one of our leaders on our team. He played the second half of his freshman year on varsity, so he's a 4-year letterman, so he should know the defense, inside and out. Should be a guy that we lean on for leadership. Like you and I had mentioned earlier, we got about 9 guys that we're going to rotate on our defensive line. Got a ton of good depth there. Probably the most recognition would be Jonathan Clark, who's played a ton of reps for us last year. That'll alternate between tackle and end. Then we have Bray Lyon, a big 300-pound guy that'll play inside. And then we got 2 seniors, Colin McQueen and Jack Wilkerson, that played a ton of snaps for us. And then about 4 or 5 juniors that are going to play a lot for us on our defensive line that we're real excited about. At linebacker right now, our projected 2 starters are 2 seniors, Will Smith, who we just talked about, and Graham McQueen, who's a 4-year program guy that'll probably start for us inside.
And you talk also about Carson Cross and the season that he had last year, leading the county, or at least tied in the county for interceptions. Just talk about the leadership he brings to the squad.
Carson's a returning all-conference guy, as you mentioned, had a good season last year. It's funny because that was really first season he'd ever played corner. He'd pretty much been a receiver predominantly his first 2 years here, but we put him in there and he adapted well and had a really good season. We got 2 starters back in the secondary. He and Marcus Robitaille, who played, towards the end of the season last year, played on both sides of the ball and will return kicks. That should be really good leadership in our back end. And then we got some corners and safeties that we're rotating around. Like I said, we got a lot of good depth with our secondary and with our receivers and guys that we're confident that can play a lot of quality reps for us.
And special teams wise, you guys have been blessed really with some great kicking over the last few years. And again, you return Jason Stricker and talk about the kicking game.
Special teams wise, we're very fortunate to have Jason again for this season. He's a weapon. He can kick off, he can punt, he can kick field goals. We are very blessed to have a kid like him, but it definitely makes you more comfortable going into the season knowing, with a kid like that you got a weapon that you should be pretty sound and pretty solid on that part of the game.
So overall, how do you feel about the team? Excited about the upcoming season?
Yeah, we're excited. It's this point of the summer where you're kind of getting into mini camp, and You know, you've been doing hand shields all spring and all summer. I think at this point, everybody's pretty cautiously optimistic about what their season's going to be, but you don't really know what you have until you start, you know, playing real football and figuring out, you know, who can play and who can't. But, you know, we're very excited, you know, about this season. Think we got a chance to, you know, do some good stuff. But at this point right now, we just kind of focus on ourselves, you know, get as good as we can at executing in all three phases and see how it turns out.